All right, the Sun Devils get a new coach for women's basketball. So we're talking about what she will bring to Tempe, and then we're breaking down how the men's basketball team ended their season and discussing the future of ASU football. All on today's episode of Locked On Pac-12 podcast.
You are Locked On Pac-12, your daily podcast on the Pac-12 Conference. It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Pac-12 podcast. Thank you so much for making this your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. I'm your host, Cindy Robinson, former Pac-12 track and field athlete. Joining me today is Richie Bradshaw from Locked On Sun Devils. Richie, it's been forever and a day since we have chatted, but I'm so happy to have you here with us today.
Happy to be back. I've missed you, Cindy.
I've missed you too. I have. And I've missed the Pac-12 fans. And so I am trying to make up for old time, the lost time that we've had, and trying to get them back up to date with everything going on with the Pac-12. And so today we're talking everything Sun Devils, at least everything that we can cram in here. The latest news would have to be about the women's basketball team. And I'm super excited to talk about that because I'm actually currently at the women's Final Four. So I'm all in women's college basketball mode right now.
Very nice. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about the weekend. We're going to hopefully see some good matchups. But for a team that didn't necessarily make the Final Four, or the NCAA tournament, it's exciting to see where they may go in their future, as the women's basketball team has now, of the Sun Devils, now have a new head coach after Coach Charlie. Why do I want Turner Thorne?
Yes,
Turner?
Charlie Turner Thorne. That's right.
There you go. I was gonna say don't want to mess her name up. Has decided to retire. Big news. She was the second winningest coach in Pac-12, most winningest coach at ASU for women's basketball, and so the coach coming in has some big shoes to fill, but she's made it very clear she's not afraid to do that. It's not her first time doing it, and it's not going to be her last. Clearly. Natasha Adair, coming from Delaware. She has coached at Delaware and Georgetown, replacing coaches with long tenured time and respect at their schools. So, in your opinion, coming behind a coach like Charlie Turner Thorne, how do you come in without, I guess, carrying the burden of, coming behind someone that's so well respected and still gain that same respect off the jump?
I mean, it's a difficult task for anybody, regardless of how successful or unsuccessful someone is. When they coach for as long as Charlie Turner Thorne had coached at Arizona State, it's going to be tough for anybody to try and take that mantle and make their own legacy with a program, and that's the challenge that Natasha Adair is going to face here. But like me and you talked just before the podcast started up, is clearly Natasha's up to the challenge of not necessarily being overwhelmed or feeling like she's going to be coaching in the shadow of whoever her predecessor was. This is the third time in her coaching career that she will be replacing a long tenured coach. So this isn't any foreign territory for Natasha. So I feel like if ASU could have picked out somebody to replace someone as tenured as Turner Thorne was, Adair seems to be a very, very good choice for them.
And I think that was one of the reasons why they were attracted to her as the coach,
right?
Because she's done this in a space of coming in and being able to respect what was already created, but moving forward and pushing, the team forward into a new era. So I feel like they felt like she was the best person for the job. But in reverse, she said that she was doing the vetting, ASU as well while they were vetting her. And one of the big things that she was concerned about is Do they care about the student athletes, and do they care about women's sports? And so she felt like the Sun Devils were committed to the women's, athletics, which is a big deal, especially in today's time. Like,
Absolutely.
women's athletics don't always get the same exact love. And honestly, exciting time. This is the 50th year anniversary of Title IX. So no better time than now to be making sure that we're holding schools accountable for how they treat, their women athletes. So excited to see what she does with that team. She does have some replacing to do, as one of their starters has decided to enter the transfer portal, Taya Hansen. She has one more year of eligibility because of the COVID year, and she has decided to transfer. So she was a starter at ASU. I am always in the mindset, though, it's a little easier when you have a new coach coming in, not to necessarily have a whole lot of veterans, because I feel like veterans are trickier to get to buy into a new system. Could be like, stereotyping all veterans right there, but I just feel like that is kind of like a common thread that you see.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, it feels like when you have a new face coming in and potentially installing a new culture, that it's going to be easier to get the young bucks to really help create that culture. And when you have someone again going back to Charlie Turner Thorne, as long tenured as she is, it is going to be, and not necessarily a bad thing either. I mean, I'm looking forward to what Natasha Adair can bring to this team, but it is going to be different, like you said. And because of that, maybe Taya or Taya believes that she has a better opportunity somewhere else and just wants to spread her wings. It's not necessarily like a knock on Natasha or anything like that. It's just that there might be another opportunity for her elsewhere. So definitely happy for her. I am one of those people. I am always pro player. Definitely do what you have to do is best for your career. Of course, we're sad to see her go because she actually was a very productive player at Arizona State, played 114 games, I believe, in her career. So that's also going to be very tough to replace, is her impact plus the coach's impact. It's going to be a very different Sun Devils women's basketball team in 2022.
Yep, but a new time calls for new changes, and so if everyone is accepting of that, you never know. You might see them go a little further in the Pac-12 tournament. Might see them go a little far in the NCAA tournament. You never know.
Fingers crossed, because Lord
Change
knows
is a good thing.
our
Change is
men's
a good thing.
basketball team won't do it. So
Speaking of men's basketball, we will get on them coming up next. We have a lot to catch up there. We're going to discuss how they ended their season and what went wrong for the Sun Devils this season. All right, for all of you that are, trapped into this NCAA season, it's still Final Four and the championship game coming up this weekend. If you're all into the betting world, go ahead and check out StatHero. StatHero's NCAA single game pick'ems pits the star players against each other in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Take control back from those handicappers that always seem to have the advantage. Start focusing on the players you know best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. StatHero gives you the advantage, resulting in their gamers winning 4 times more often. Why? Because StatHero eliminates the mystery about who or what you're going up against. In addition to their pick'em games, they also have dozens of lineups you can comb through to take on head-to-head. They simply post sets of players for you to take on with a set of players you choose. StatHero is the easiest and fastest way to get your sports action fix. The simple, sleek gameplay will have you playing in minutes. This is what daily fantasy was meant to be. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/locked-on and use the promo code locked-on for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/locked-on using promo code locked-on for a 100% match. Again, stathero.com/locked-on, promo code locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. All right, it's that time of year that most of us will pretty much have given up on our New Year's resolutions, but I'm trying so hard to stick to mine, and that is eating healthy. So thanks to Built Bar, it's made it a little easier. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you have to check it out. Built Bar has the most amazing protein bars. And the best part about them, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They have these things called the Puffs. And if you haven't tried one, you're missing out on Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And again, covered in 100% real chocolate. Okay, Built Bars are low in calories, high in protein. Replace those candy bars with these. They are better, I promise you. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. You can go ahead and check out the macros chart on built.com and you'll see all you need to know. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Can't get any better than that. And on top of that, there's so many different flavors: mint brownie, coconut, coconut almond, white chocolate, cookies and cream. Literally so much to choose from. So go to build.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at build.com. Shout out to you listeners for making a Locked On Pac-12 podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, so keep on listening. Okay, Richie, the men's basketball program. I will say this. We didn't have high hopes to start the season, but I feel like we expected a little more productive of a season than we actually got.
Yeah.
There were some glimpses of, nice moments there, here and there, but overall, we will call this a struggle year, right? Definitely not what we wanted to see from the Sun Devils basketball team, especially not in the Pac-12 tournament. One and done.
Ugh. That was so frustrating. You ended the year going into the tournament, winning 7 of your last 8. You had so many guys who were shooting hot. You had Jay Heath. You had Marion Jackson, DJ Horn, Kamani Lawrence were all playing at the top of their game. You had great role players like Alonzo Gaffney and Jalen Graham were also playing really, really well. It felt like you could have made some kind of run in the tournament, maybe even good enough to get some of the attention of the guys who were making the NCAA bracket. And unfortunately, you blew a 13-point lead with less than 3 minutes left to play against Stanford, lost that game 71-70, and got sent home super quick. I had a buddy who went out to cover the game, ended up only staying one night. He came right back home. I was like, was it a nice trip? He was like, it was a lot of money for gas just to go there and watch us blow a game like that. So
yeah, that hurts. Tough. I would have been a little disappointed myself.
Yes.
It was
tough.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, where do we go from here? Because now you're in the off-season mode. Obviously, the players probably aren't really thinking much about next season, but coaches should be, right? And as of right now, Bobby Hurley's still the coach. Don't see that changing anytime soon. But what are some, I don't know, what would you like to see happen in this offseason to make this team better?
It's going to be tough. You're going to have to hit the transfer portal again. Marion Jackson, Kamani Lawrence are both departing after losing out on all their eligibility. They were fifth-year guys. So Kamani, a longstanding Arizona State Sun Devil. Marion was the former MAC Player of the Year, came to Arizona State, turned it on in the second half of the season. It's going to be tough to deal with both of those losses. The bright side is DJ Horn should be back, who was arguably the team's best player during the 2021-2022 season. And hopefully Marcus Bagley will be back to 100%. He only got to play not even 3 games this year before basically having an injury that knocked him out the rest of the year. It wasn't a season ending. It was just one of those, the timetable kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back until eventually he was just out for the year. So the idea of having Bagley and Horn back in this lineup is really exciting. The upside of a guy like Enoch Blache is also really, really exciting. So you have 3 potential studs in this lineup. From here, you're going to need to find a way to build some depth. You are seeing a few guys transfer out, and because of that, you're going to need guys to come in. I'm not sure what the recruiting class looks like, but if you can find a proven stud in the transfer portal that wants to come in and maybe make a run for a low seed in the NCAA tournament with starting opportunity, that's going to be your best bid right now, because Arizona State continues to not exactly be the destination that just the top players don't want to come here. Who could blame them? But Bobby Hurley's job is safe. He is doing just good enough, but I would like to think this is potentially the final year if he can't get back into the tournament.
Yeah, I was gonna say the good enough has been holding him over for some time now, but we do want to see actual like production for sure. And while most people may think that ASU is not necessarily known for basketball because their rivals Arizona has so much, NBA star power that we see come in there. I wouldn't say ASU is a slouch. You know what I mean? That they have been competitive in past years and definitely could be competitive in the Pac-12. So moving forward in the future, definitely want to see some better. Just some quick notes. This season wasn't a complete wash for them. They actually ended up being third in field goal defense. So they held their opponents to just 400 shooting. I don't know how to say that exactly because I feel like I'm used to percentages and not like that. But basically, that's just like 40% or something like that. Under 40% of shooting. That's the third best in school history. The best defensive effort since 1971. So that's saying a lot. There was some positive moments there. I think that just needs to translate over into their full game and actually win them some games. But again, the Pac-12 is very competitive when it comes to basketball. It's not the same as football at all.
It's just exactly. It's not the same as what Arizona State puts out on the football field, which even then isn't exactly like this national championship contending team.
Right.
Our expectations in Tempe aren't to win a national championship. We just want to be able to make the bracket. We want to be able to have some March Madness to enjoy.
Right.
Like it's fun to watch it without the stress of seeing if ASU is going to win or lose. But at the same time, you want to see your team make it. Like it's just a bummer year after year to just feel like the expectation of the team and of the administration for Arizona State to just get to 500. Like it just feels like I've said this many a times. It's a lazy thing to say, but you're settling for mediocrity with this. Like it's just not good enough. At some point, something's got to give, and Arizona State needs to find a way to be competitive.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Coming up next, Richie and I are going to switch gears to football and talk a little bit about the whole QB situation going on over there in Tempe. It's not the prettiest right now, but it's okay. There's hope for their future. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. You can choose to spend a lot less than 30%, 50%, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. They offer reliably low prices for every customer. Make sure you go ahead and check out rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Okay, Richie. QB chatter time. That's what I'm calling this right now because there is just so much to talk about. So earlier in the week, I talked with Spencer about Jaden Daniels' departure, what it meant for him and like somewhat of his character and what type of player he is to be, I will say, how do you say it? Sent off the way he was by his team when he announced that he would be transferring. It wasn't pretty, and we weren't sure if that was a reflection of him as a quarterback and teammate or more of a reflection of those players and their immaturity. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, some of his ASU teammates basically trashed his locker and didn't have the nicest things to say about Jaden Daniels when he announced that he would be transferring or entering the transfer portal. And now we know that he's moving on to LSU, but where does that leave ASU in that QB position?
They're in flux. They truly are. You've got the top two guys who are competing right now are Trenton Bourguet, who's been with ASU for a couple of years now, primarily as the backup, and Paul Tyson, who is related to the great Bear Bryant and was a 4-star recruit at Alabama before transferring to Arizona State because he couldn't usurp the stars that are Mac Jones and Bryce Young, and who could blame him? I mean, those are two very, very good quarterbacks. So he's coming to Arizona State with an opportunity to start. The bad news is between the two of them, they have less than 30 career pass attempts. So you don't exactly have any kind of body of framework to look at with these guys. B, there's a whole new offensive staff too. Plus, you just lost Rachaad White and Chip Trayanum and Curtis Hodges to the NFL draft. Or with Chip, he transferred to Ohio State, but the other two are in the NFL draft now. So you're losing weapons, you're losing offensive linemen. You have a new offense, you have new quarterbacks. It's going to be a very, very different unit in 2022. The bright side is at least you got 3 very quality running backs, which is good because you're probably going to be running the ball a lot, not because Bourguet or Tyson will be bad, but because you would certainly be risking a lot with guys who simply haven't had an opportunity. I'm not bashing them whatsoever. I really want them to succeed, and I feel like they could find success. But in year one, at least with these guys starting, you got to make life as easy as possible for them.
I agree. I'm like in this thought process of in last season, we went into football season thinking ASU was going to be, and they kind of were for the most part, one of the top teams, the team to beat, a major competitor, and their rivals, Arizona, was at the pits of their season. Like it couldn't get any worse. And as I said that, it continued to get worse.
Right.
Now looking forward into the next season, Arizona's looking like a brighter spot right now, while ASU is looking like they're going to be struggling and might be digging themselves in a deep hole. For you, and with how big the rivalry is in Arizona, how are you feeling as the season approaches, or as we're getting to summer, spring, off season, all of that? Are you concerned? Are you thinking like this is just going to be a rebuilding season and we're going to go through maybe some of the similar struggles that the Wildcats endured last season?
Call me biased if you have to, or maybe optimistic. I still have confidence in this team to be contending for a bowl game, even if it's a 6-6 record. We're not a 10-win team. We're not a 9-win team. I don't think we're an 8-win team, but this team is still going to be tough as nails. The defense, while you did lose the vast majority of your secondary, you bring back a lot of really good talent in the front seven. And that's important in the Pac-12, being able to control the line of scrimmage. I do like the defense. The offense is just such a big question mark. You don't know what to expect with the quarterbacks. Like I said, you got to lean on your run game. And thankfully, you've got a proven guy in Daniel Nagata. You've got a proven transfer with Xavier Valade. And you've got an incoming freshman who's just a big bruiser in Tevin White. If I were Herm Edwards and the rest of the new coaching staff, I would run the absolute heck out of the football and make things as easy as possible. Like I just said, make it so easy for the quarterback to just sit, just relax. Like you've got the run game, let them do their work, let them do their thing, and then see if that defense can continue a good stretch. They're gonna take a step back. I mean, there's so much like differences, especially in the secondary now. But I do think this is still a good team. Now, I don't think this is a top 3 team in the South. I would still put I'd put Utah and UCLA and potentially USC, depending on how quickly Lincoln Riley can adapt to the Pac-12. I think we're we're still ahead of Colorado. I do believe I would put us ahead of U of A. I'll gladfully admit that U of A is definitely starting to turn a corner after, a very down year.
I was gonna say I don't know if I can fully. Well, okay, I'll say this: with the draft class that they
Right.
had, and then acquiring Jaden Delore. I won't say that acquiring. Is that even the right proper
A
term in
very
college?
good pickup. Yeah.
Yes.
Very, very good pickup.
I just think that it's going to be a complete 180 for them. And I don't know if ASU, I feel like it's going to be a complete 180 for ASU as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of change. Like maybe it's me being more optimistic than anything, which is funny because I typically am very pessimistic.
Yes, I was
when
going to
it
say
comes.
it's a new change for you, but I'm
Yes.
here for it.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think
Okay.
this is a 6-6 team. What really bodes well for them is the schedule is pretty favorable their way. They don't have to play Oregon. They get teams like oh my gosh, you got UCLA at home. I believe you have to go to Utah though. The toughest game isn't even in conference. You got to go to Stillwater to play the Oklahoma State Cowboys. That's a loss. You can chalk that up right now. Whatever the spread is, you take Oklahoma State to cover it. But I do think this is still a solid ASU team. I think they'll be bowl contenders right at that 6-6 mark, but it also wouldn't shock me if they really fell flat. There's just a lot of change. So we'll see. I think it's overcomable, but at the same time, I won't sit here, Cindy, and tell you like, oh yeah, we're favorites in the South and we're better than all the other 5 teams. We're not. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did have a down year. So we'll see.
Okay, I'm not knocking the optimism. I'm here for it. It's
There
okay.
you go.
It's
For
okay to be
once.
optimistic.
For once
Look,
I'm
I'm
not
queen of optimism. I'm rooting for the Cougars at all points. So that's tells you my optimism right there.
You guys beat us this year, so
We did. I'm gonna hold on to that.
there you go.
Okay, Richie, thank you so much for joining us. As always, it's a great time. You guys can check out Richie Bradshaw on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast Monday through Friday. Wherever you get your podcast, go ahead and download and listen in. And then make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to Locked On Pac-12 podcast on YouTube. Richie, are you on YouTube now?
We are on YouTube now.
Okay, Locked On
Yes.
Sun Devils too. Make sure you check them out on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And then, continue to listen to all the Pac-12 news here, but also make Locked On NFL Draft your second listen of the day, or maybe your third listen after Sun Devils, with Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. Bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Other than that, make sure you guys continue to stay locked on Pac-12 on the Locked On Network.